Drink this.
What is it?
It has no name. Many brave men died to bring it here from the galaxy of pleasure.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the channel if this is your first time. I'm going to do my usual monthly wrap up for July, but I'm going to do it slightly differently. So what I tend to do is I'll talk about the videos I put on the channel, I'll talk about Goodreads, and then I'll talk about what I've read, generally speaking. I'm going to skip the Goodreads thing because that's completely out of date at the minute. So I've been ignoring Goodreads for ages, so I need to go back on it and update it. So I'm not even bother looking to see what it says about how many books I've read. But I think I'm on track for the target, which was a very small target anyway. I'm going to do the books first. So the reason why I'm going to do the books first, why am I going to do the books first? Can't remember, but it's a choice I made anyway. So here we go. Let's have a look at this. Okay, so the first thing I read, well, just to let you know that a lot of this is based around Rocket Summer. There's a few exceptions, but Rocket Summer was a big thing in July for me. So it started off with Edgar Rice Burroughs at the Earth's Core, which I quite enjoyed, and I was impressed with the attitude of Edgar Rice Burroughs to some of the things that sometimes seem a bit archaic when you read stuff from that long ago. It seemed to have a very positive attitude, very progressive attitude, it seemed, to what he regarded as savages, and I thought that was really cool. But actually, it's just a really good book, and quite enjoyed it. So yeah, at the Earth's Core, Edgar Rice Burroughs. Have a look at the vlog if you want to see more. That was good. And then I went on to this one, which I really liked, The Clockwork Man by Evie Odell, the only book that they wrote, which is really odd. But yeah, I really enjoyed this, and it was a bit of a surprise. The Radio Mage is a series of books where they've kind of produced an imprint of forgotten classics kind of thing. So this was from 1923, this book. That was really good. I really enjoyed that one. And then I read the Anything box by Zena Henderson. So I read a couple of others as well. What else did I read? One called Hush. I remember that. I read one called Hush, and I read one called, it was the Anything box, then Hush, and I can't remember what the other one was. Things. Yeah, the one called Things. And they were really good. I think this is a really good book, so I definitely recommend this. And the Anything box was really intriguing, about a little girl who's got who retreats sometimes into this anything box, and it's like this invisible box that she's got where she can dream anything and it appears. And her teacher thought it was a little bit worrying and needed to sort of take her away from it. Really good story, really good story. Also quite a deep story, lots of layers to it, lots of ways you can think. It keeps you thinking about it afterwards. So yeah, the Anything box was really good. So definitely recommend that. And then using this anthology, I found an old story by Daniel Keyes called The Quality of Mercy. That was really interesting. That was really good. It's quite an interesting anthology, this is, because it's got stories by Keith Laumer and Clifford Simak and a couple of other people as well. But I was really intrigued by the Daniel Keyes one, so I used that for Rocket Summer. And yeah, it was really good. So I really enjoyed that one. Daniel Keyes wrote what I often say is my favourite book, Flowers for Algernon. So if you haven't read Flowers for Algernon, you've got to read Flowers for Algernon. And then after that, I started reading some Charles Beaumont. So that was really cool. And I was kind of inspired by this deep dive I'm doing on the Twilight Zone, which is coming up as we go along on the channel. So I read The Beautiful People, which ended up being an episode of the Twilight Zone called Number 12 Looks Just Like You, which is a fantastic episode. But I read another one as well. What was the other one I read? Can I remember what it was? See, I need to... In His Image, I think I read. Yeah, that was really good. I mean, I've read some of these before anyway. But yeah, Charles Bowman is a great writer and an extremely important writer for the Twilight Zone. But yeah, that was really cool. Then I carried on with my reread of The Golden Apples of the Sun. This is one of Ray Bradbury's best books. And I read The Sound of Thunder, which is my all-time favourite short story. And I also read a couple of others as well over the period of the month. What else did I read? I read The Great Wide World Over There. I read Sun and Shadow. And I read The Garbage Collector and The Great Fire. Yeah. So a few others I read as well. But it's a great collection if you get a chance to have it. It's one of his early ones. I think you could probably... I'll say more about this when I finish the deep dive, but I think his best stuff is the first sort of 20 years of his writing. Okay, so this is a book that I didn't finish. So now I'm on holiday at this point because I spent 15 days-ish in New Orleans. So it was a big chunk of the month. By the way, it's really hot at the moment in the UK. And it's in the 30s, 30-something centigrade. And it was that kind of heat in New Orleans, but it's different. When it's this hot in the UK, it's more knackering than it is in other countries. I've been in quite a few countries now where it's been that sort of heat, and it's just really, it's a lot more pleasant. I think the heat in the UK is just really suffocating. So yeah, it's not the same. You can't enjoy it. I do like it when it's hot, but I don't like it as much as I like it when I'm in another country and it's hot. But anyway, Project Hail Mary, I was really keen to read this, and I got that way through it, so about 150 pages, and I wasn't really taken in, I wasn't engaged, and I thought I would be, so I decided to stop, and start again later on. So I'm going to try and read this, hopefully in September, and we'll see how we get on. I think the circumstance around reading it wasn't right, I think. Although Heidi, one of my frequent friends in the comment section, she says she DNF'd it anyway. So, but I don't know. I was quite surprised. So anyway, I did start this, The House on the Celan Sea, by TJ Klune. I've done a review of it on the channel, so if you are curious to know exactly what I think, I talk in much more detail in that video. But I did like it. I thought it was really good and very endearing, very likable book. Very easy read, very cozy read. And I talk a little bit about that. I kind of do a little comparison between this and the Becky Chambers stuff, which I prefer, and Travis Baldry's Legends and Lattes. And I think this is better than Legends and Lattes, by the way. But yeah, see what you think of that. So then I read The Status of Civilization by Robert Sheckley. So this again falls into the remit of Rocket Summer, and Robert Sheckley is one of my favourite authors. It was nice to reread this again. This is a brilliant book, and it's quite unpredictable. It's got lots of really interesting ideas in it, and it's thoroughly underrated. So it's I'll do another shout out for Robert Sheckley because nobody ever talks about him, and if you know a channel that does talk about him, then please let me know, because it'd be nice to see another channel talk about him, but it just doesn't seem to be getting talked about. And he's in a lot of anthologies, and he gets reprinted sometimes. But yeah, for some reason, BookTube doesn't talk about him a lot. But The State of Civilization was really good. This is one of several books I'm going to do special videos on. But I don't think the video I've done for this one has appeared on the channel yet. I've got that scheduled for later on in the month. But yeah, really good. Really, really good. Robert Sheckley is a dude. So then, as I bought this in LA, and it's a series of cartoons, I read this. So this is a very rare book find. It's a George Booth book, which is called Think Good Thoughts About a Pussycat. I was a little disappointed by it, actually. So I was really, really excited and pleased to find it. It's a nice part of my collection, because you don't get George Booth stuff very often. But half of the cartoons I didn't really like that much, and there was a few I just didn't understand. But yeah, that was another thing that I read in July. And I also read during Rocket Summer, I read the first ever time travel story. That was really interesting. The fact it was the first one was really interesting. And have I got that written down somewhere? Yes, that was from 1881. It was by Edward Page Mitchell, and it's called The Clock That Went Backwards. Yeah, and it was really good. That was the first one I've read from this book. Obviously, there'll be some in here that I've read before, but the first one I've read from this book itself. But I'm going to do a series of videos from this book because it's such a brilliant ultimate treasury of time travel short stories. It's a really nice treasure trove of short stories. So I am going to do more videos on this. So like someone suggested in the comments, I'm going to take it like 4 or 5 stories at a go as we go along. So I won't do that yet. I'll do that later on in the year. But yeah, the first one from 1881 by, was it Edward Page Mitchell, was really interesting. Really, really good. And then I also read 2 stories from this collection, edited by Judith Merrill. And this was Papa Needs Shorts and Double Standard. So they were good stories. They weren't amazing, but they were good stories. So Papa Needs Shorts was by Walt and Lee Richmond, and Double Standard was my first story by Frederick Brown. He's quite a celebrated sci-fi author, but I hadn't read anything by him yet. Yeah, they were both good stories. Double Standard was quite clever, actually, I would say, and it's kind of an interesting take on the anxieties and issues of the changing morals of the late 50s, early 60s. So that was really interesting. So have a look at Rocket Summer Vlogs if you want more information on that. And then a couple of other books. So you may have seen me do a short about this book, Ellisons Greatest Hits. This is a massive big deal that's coming out, and it's so nice to go into bookshops and see his stuff, a new book by him on the shelves in bookshops as a new book. It's great to see it, and that's because this is a re-release, a new release, kind of re-releasing his most awarded stories. So I'm going to do a full video on this book once I've read them all again. But as you probably know from the channel, I've been collecting his stuff most of my life. I've got a big collection of his stuff over there, and there isn't really anything I don't think in here that I haven't read already. But as I'm going through them, I'm obviously familiarizing myself with them after a big gap. So sometimes there's been a big gap. So this time round, picking up this copy. So from this book, I read Repentant Harlequin again because it's my favorite Helen Ellison story. I read I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream again. I read The Deathbird. I read The Whimper of Whipped Dogs, which is really harrowing and really violent. Jeff D is 5, which is a fantastic story. And Pretty Maggie Money Eyes, I read that. And I read Saturday as well. So I've got kind of halfway through it, if you like, with this reread. So I'm hoping to get further through it so I can do a special video on it. Because it's a really cool thing that they decided to do this. And it's got some really interesting introductions on there as well. And I will say now that I like the fact that they've put warnings before the stories, because it means there's been no worries about just slapping the story in there as it stands without changing anything. Because same as they did with the Muppet Show, when they put the Muppet Show on Disney Plus, they didn't change anything, but they put warnings on a few of the episodes. And I'd much rather that than they actually doctor over those episodes or these stories. So I'm really pleased that they left the stories as they were and just put up a thing saying, you know, Harlan Ellison. I remember there's one, I can't remember which story it is, but there's one where they say that Harlan Ellison was a very fierce defender against racism, but there's some language in there that's outdated and could be offensive because of the nature of what he's trying to do in the story, which I think is a brilliant thing to put. And it's absolutely right. And I think Harlan Ellison probably wouldn't like that kind of warning in one of his books, but doesn't mean it's not a good idea, because it means that the story goes in as it is, which is great. So anyway, halfway through that book and absolutely loving the fact it exists and loving reading those again. So that was really good. So that kind of fits with Rocket Summer as well, because a lot of those are really early. Some of them were in the 70s though. But then the last thing I read for Rocket Summer, last thing I read for this month was a story called Rule Golden by Damon Knight. And I'm trying to champion Damon Knight a little bit on this channel recently. And this goes back to, where does it go back to? Does it say? Yes, it does say 1957. No, 1954. Rule Golden was written, and it's really good. It's 80 pages, so it's like a little novelette, novella, 80 pages. And again, it's quite unpredictable. It's quite unusual, actually. And it's about this being that visits Earth and starts influencing it in a major way, and starts creating all these problems on Earth to basically destroy our violent nature. And there's a guy that's basically on the run with him, that's sort of always debating in his head about whether or not he should be trying to stop him or not. It's a really interesting story, quite an unusual one. Rule Golden by Damon Knight from 1954. So there we are. I loved Rocket Summer. It was invented by Michael K. Vaughan to look at classic science fiction. I read some more recent stuff as well. I read a couple of things that weren't science fiction. Not that much, actually. Most of it was science fiction, which is great. I want to go back to that as well in September, after August being lots of trash. And yeah, it's really great. A lot of those were favourite authors of mine. So that was really good to read that stuff. So what did I put on the channel? So I've got a list here. So the first thing that went up was the 7th episode or part of my Twilight Zone deep dive. So that was really good to put up there. I really enjoyed putting that one up. I've actually filmed 23 of them now, but they're going out gradually, so it's not like too full on, and I lose lots of subscribers because he's only going on about that. I did a Garbogs announcement with my 3D glasses. Did that one after that. Then I did a video where I talked about my screw up with booking the hotel and what fantastic service they gave by giving me a refund. That was brilliant. So if you want to watch a story where I humbly say what an idiot I am, then you can watch that video. I put up 2 vlogs for Rocket Summer before I went away. I did a Storathon update where I just talked about the fact that I was well behind, but I wanted to catch up rather than abandon the books. So far I haven't managed to do that, but we'll see. I still got that in my plans. I put up a song that me and my son wrote called Lemmings, which is a bit jazzy, and it'd be interesting to, if you want to check that out and see if you like it, that'd be cool. I did a tribute / parody of MJ's Support Small Booktube videos. So it was a very gentle parody where I was just exaggerating some of the things like friends, fiction, fun and stuff. So there's a little bit of fun, and she's been away from Booktube for a little bit, so I was just doing that. So a bit of a laugh. I love MJ very much, so there was definitely nothing dodgy about it. And then I did the Booktube name book tag, which was quite fun. Then I'm in New Orleans at that point, and I did a New Orleans books that I brought with me. So I did. I talked about dropping Project Hail Mary, and the fact at that point I'd started the house on the Celan Sea and was liking it. Did that, and then there's the big old vlog from New Orleans. It's nearly an hour long, but there's quite a lot in it. If you are curious, I'd recommend it. I think it's got something for everyone, hopefully, in the video. And I kept filming stuff. New Orleans was fantastic. I've been back a couple of days, and I want to go back again. I really want to go back again. But that was fun. And then I did a video about my channel plans. So that was because I wanted to say something about some of the events I was going to do, and I wanted to pay tribute to Scott and Alice again, basically. So I did that on that video. And also I did a review of the house on the Celan Sea by TJ Clune. I put that one up there. So as I said, there's another book review coming up soon from Robert Sheckley, and there's a bunch. Obviously there's going to be a couple of other things coming up as well. there's part 8 of the Twilight Zone thing that's about to appear on the channel as well, which has got the first appearance from William Shatner. So yeah, there we go. That is what we've had in July, and it's been a good month for reading. Very good month for reading. Those short stories were really cool, and there's a few novels I read that were really good. And next month we'll see how we get on with the trashy stuff. Let me know what you think about any of that. Thanks for watching, everybody. Stay curious.
Picture of what it's like to be you.